The slave markets of Prime smelled like fear and death. Thousands of creatures from hundreds of worlds stood in cages, waiting to be sold. Some cried, some screamed. Most had already given up hope. Walked through the crowded streets with her hood pulled low over her silver face. She was a princess of the empire, but today she wore the clothes of a common trader. Her violet eyes moved from cage to cage, and her stomach turned with disgust. She had come here to learn the truth. Her father, the great emperor, had told her that slavery was a small problem in the galaxy, a minor trade, nothing to worry about. But what she saw today told a different story. The slave markets were massive. They stretched for miles in every direction, and her father's ships carried supplies to this very station. Stopped in front of a holding pen that was quieter than the others. Inside, about 20 aliens of different species sat or stood in chains, but one figure caught her attention immediately. He was human. Had never seen a human before. They were rare in the galaxy. There had been blocked off by the Galactic Council long before she was born. The official reports said humans carried a dangerous disease, but looking at this one, she saw no sign of sickness. The human male sat alone in the corner. He had dark hair, dark eyes, and skin the color of warm sand. He was not large compared to the other aliens in the cage. He had no claws, no scales, no natural armor. His body was lean but muscular, like a tool built for a specific purpose. What struck most was his face. While every other slave showed fear or despair, this human showed nothing. He simply watched. His eyes moved slowly across the room, studying everything and everyone. A commotion broke out in the cage. A large alien with 4 arms and green skin had decided he wanted the human's food ration. The alien was twice the human's size. He grabbed the human by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Stepped closer, expecting to see the human die. 3 seconds later, the large alien was on the ground, unconscious. The human stood over him, not even breathing hard. He had moved so fast that had barely seen what happened. One moment he was being choked. The next moment his attacker was down. The human picked up his food ration and returned to his corner. His expression had not changed once. Felt her heart beating faster. She had seen warriors from a dozen species. She had watched arena fights and military exercises, but she had never seen anything move like that human. It was not just speed or strength. It was something else, something she could not name. A loud voice broke through her thoughts. "This one, I want this one." A massive reptilian creature pushed through the crowd toward the holding pen. He was one of the most brutal species in the galaxy. His scales were dark red and old scars covered his face. His name was, and everyone in the market knew him. He bought slaves that other traders considered worthless. He bought the broken ones, the sick ones, the ones no one else wanted. He bought them for the fighting pits. Pointed one clawed finger at the human. "How much for the soft one?" The slave trader laughed nervously. "The human. He is damaged goods, my lord, difficult to control. He has been sold 7 times already. Every master who bought him is now dead." "Dead how?" asked. "Accidents, my lord, terrible accidents." His mouth spread into a wide smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I like accidents. Name your price." The trade happened quickly. Watched as guards dragged the human out of the cage. He did not resist. He did not speak. He simply walked between them, his dark eyes still watching everything around him. As he passed, the human turned his head slightly. For one brief moment their eyes met. Felt a chill run down her spine. Those eyes held no fear, no anger, no hope. They held only patience. The patience of someone who was waiting for the right moment. Then he was gone, pulled into the crowd towards transport ship. Stood frozen for a long moment. Her mind told her to forget what she had seen. She was a princess. She had important work to do. The fate of one human slave meant nothing in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But she could not stop thinking about those eyes. She found a guard and pressed a bag of credits into his hand. The human that just bought, where is he taking him? The guard looked around nervously before answering. My lady, it is an underground fighting arena, very illegal, very deadly. How do I get there? The guard stared at her like she was insane. My lady, no one goes to the by choice, slaves go there to die. Pressed another bag of credits into his hand. The guard gave her the coordinates. 1 hour later, stood at the docking bay of her private ship. Her servants waited inside, ready to take her home to the comfort and safety of the imperial palace. She thought about her father's lies. She thought about the thousands of slaves she had seen today. She thought about the human with the patient eyes. She entered the ship and gave her pilot new coordinates. She was going to the of. She did not know why. She only knew that she had to see that human fight again. And somewhere deep in her heart, she already knew that this decision would change her life forever. The of were hidden beneath a dead moon. From space, the moon looked empty, but beneath its rocky surface, thousands of creatures gathered every night to watch slaves kill each other for entertainment. Ship landed in a private docking bay. She had paid a fortune for a viewing balcony, the kind reserved for wealthy criminals and corrupt politicians. She wore a mask now, hiding her silver features. Here, anonymity was survival. The arena was carved from black stone. It was shaped like a bowl, with seats rising up on all sides. In the center was a circular pit covered in sand. The sand was dark brown, stained by years of blood. Took her seat and looked around. The crowd was a mix of species from across the galaxy. Some wore fine clothes and jewelry. Others wore armor and carried weapons. All of them had one thing in common: they had come to watch death. The first fights of the night were brutal, watched as aliens tore each other apart with claws, teeth, and blades. The crowd cheered and screamed. Credits changed hands as people bet on the outcomes. Losers were dragged away. Winners were given water and pushed back into holding cells to fight again. Felt sick, but she did not leave. She was waiting. 2 hours passed. Then finally a voice echoed through the arena. Ladies and tonight we have something special, a rare treat, a human from the quarantine world. The crowd erupted in laughter and shouts, leaned forward in her seat. A gate opened on one side of the pit, walked out slowly, his bare feet touching the bloody sand. He wore only simple pants. His chest was bare, showing lean muscles covered in old scars. His hands were empty, no weapons. The crowd laughed louder. Humans were considered weak by most species. They had no natural weapons, no armor. They were soft and fragile. And his opponent, the announcer continued, a warrior from the death world of. A second gate opened. The creature that emerged made its blood run cold. The stood 8 feet tall. It had 4 massive arms, each ending in claws the size of knives. Its body was covered in thick, armored hide that could stop most blades. Its face was flat and wide, with 6 small eyes that glowed red in the arena lights. The roar and the sound shook the walls. The crowd went wild. The betting screens around the arena showed the odds, 200 to 1 against the human. No one believed he could survive. Gripped the arms of her chair. Her heart was pounding. The signal was given. The fight began. The charged immediately, moving faster than something that large should be able to move. Its 4 arms spread wide, ready to grab and crush. Did not run. He did not panic. He simply waited. At the last possible moment, he moved. He stepped to the side so smoothly that it looked like water flowing around a rock. His claws cut through empty air. The creature spun and attacked again, and again, and again. Each time was not there. He moved just enough to avoid each strike, never wasting energy, never showing fear. The crowd grew quiet. This was not what they expected. Then began to fight back. He did not punch or kick like a brawler. He moved like a surgeon. His hands found specific points on this body, joints, nerve clusters, weak spots in the armored hide. Each touch was precise. Each touch caused damage. The screamed in pain and confusion. Its left arm stopped working, then its right leg. The creature stumbled, trying to understand what was happening to its own body. Circled behind the monster, his face showed no emotion, no anger, no joy. He was simply doing a job. The swung wildly with its remaining arms, ducked under the strike and jumped onto the creature's back, his hands wrapped around its thick neck. For a moment, the arena was completely silent. Then came the sound of breaking bone. The collapsed. Its massive body hit the sand and did not move again. Stood over the corpse. He was not even breathing hard. The whole fight had lasted less than 2 minutes. The silence stretched on. Then slowly the crowd began to react. Some cheered. Some shouted in anger, having lost their bets. Some simply stared in shock. Realized she had stopped breathing. She forced air into her lungs and whispered to herself, so quietly that no one could hear. What is he? She watched as guards came to drag this body away. Stood in the center of the pit, his dark eyes scanning the crowd. For one brief moment, his gaze passed over his balcony. Did he recognize her? Did he remember the princess from the slave market? Then guards came and led him away, back to the holding cells beneath the arena. Sat in her chair for a long time after the fights ended. Her mind was racing. She had come here expecting to watch a human die. Instead, she had watched a human do something impossible. A soft voice spoke beside her. Interesting, is he not? Turned, a female alien stood next to her chair. She was with blue skin and silver hair. Her eyes were sharp and knowing. I am, the alien said. I manage and I know who you are, princess. His hand moved toward her hidden blade, but raised a hand peacefully. Do not worry, your secret is safe with me. I am merely curious, smiled. Are you interested in purchasing the human? After tonight, many will want him, but I could arrange a private sale. Looked back at the empty arena, the blood-stained sand, the cheering crowds. Tell me everything you know about him, she said. Smile grew wider. Follow me, princess, we have much to discuss. His private room was filled with soft light and expensive furniture. It was a strange contrast to the blood and death that happened in the arena below. Sat in a chair made of alien leather while poured 2 glasses of golden wine. You want to know about humans, said, handing a glass. Most people do not care. They see humans as weak, fragile, easy to break. They are wrong. Then what are they? Asked. Sat down across from her. Humans come from a planet called Earth. It is a death world. Frowned. I have seen death world species. Come from a death world. Humans look nothing like them. That is what makes them terrifying, said. On most death worlds, creatures develop armor or claws or venom. They become monsters, but Earth was different. Earth created creatures that could adapt to anything. Creatures that could survive anywhere. Creatures that never ever gave up. Leaned forward. Do you know why the Galactic Council quarantined Earth? They told everyone it was because of disease. That was a lie. Then why? Because humans do not know how to surrender. His voice dropped lower. 300 years ago, an invasion fleet tried to conquer Earth. They had better weapons, better ships, better technology in every way. The war should have lasted 2 weeks. What happened? It lasted 40 years. The humans never stopped fighting. When they lost their armies, they fought in small groups. When they lost their weapons, they made new ones from rocks and sticks. When they lost their cities, they hid in mountains and forests and kept fighting. They used tricks and traps. They attacked at night. They never slept. They never rested. They turned the invasion into a nightmare. Finished her wine. In the end, they gave up and left. They did not conquer Earth. No one has tried since. And the Council decided it was better to keep humans contained on their planet than to let them spread across the galaxy. Thought about the fight she had watched, the way it moved, the calm patience in his eyes. The human in your arena said, "What is his story?" His name is, he was captured from a colony ship 2 years ago. Since then, he has been sold to 7 different masters. All 7 are dead now. He killed them. He survived them, corrected. There is a difference. Humans have a saying, they play the long game, they wait, they watch, they learn. And when the moment is right, they act, is very good at waiting. Set down her glass. I want to see him. Raised an eyebrow. That is unusual. Most buyers prefer to inspect their purchases from a distance. I am not buying him. I just want to talk. Studied her for a long moment. Then she smiled. Very well, but I warn you, princess. Humans are not like other slaves. Do not expect him to bow or beg. He will not play that game. The slave quarters beneath the arena were dark and cold. Walked between rows of cages, her boots echoing on the stone floor. Guards watched her nervously. They had been well paid to allow this visit. She found in a cell at the far end. He was not alone. Another human sat beside him, younger, with a bruised face and frightened eyes, was wrapping torn cloth around the younger man's wounded hand. Stopped outside the bars. The human looked up. His dark eyes studied her face, then moved down to her clothes, her posture, her hidden weapons. He was analyzing her, she realized, measuring her as a threat. The princess from the slave market, he said. His voice was calm and low. You followed me here. You remember me. I remember everything. He finished bandaging the younger man's hand and stood up. What do you want? Glanced at the other human. Who is he? His name is, he was captured 3 months ago. They wanted him to fight tonight, but he refused, so they beat him. His voice did not change, but something cold flickered in his eyes. He is not a fighter. He was a teacher before they took him. Looked up at with terrified eyes, but said nothing. Turned back to, why do you keep fighting? You have 12 of matches. You could let yourself die. End the suffering. Walked closer to the bars. He was only inches away from her now. This close, she could see the scars that covered his body, years of pain written on his skin. Because everyone who put chains on me is still breathing, he said quietly, and I am very patient. The words sent a chill through his heart. She understood now. This was not a broken slave waiting for death. This was a predator waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I can buy your freedom, she said. I have enough money, you could be free tomorrow. Shook his head slowly. I am not leaving without the others. Others? There are 11 humans in the, scattered in different cells, different sections, all slaves. His eyes locked onto hers. I will not leave them behind. Stared at him. That is impossible. Freeing 1 slave is risky. Freeing 12 would require an army. Then I will wait until I have an army. Stepped back from the bars. Go home, princess. This is not your fight. But as walked away from the cell, she knew she could not go home. She kept thinking about his words, his patience, his refusal to abandon his people. She had spent her whole life in a palace, surrounded by servants who called her master. But standing in front of that cell, she had felt like the one in chains. Fought for something. He believed in something. What did she believe in? By the time she reached her ship, had made her decision. She was not going home. She was going to help free his people, even if it destroyed everything she had ever known. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of planning, bribing, and waiting. Had never worked so hard in her life. In the palace, servants did everything for her. Here, in the shadows of she had to do everything herself. She smuggled weapons into the arena hidden in food shipments. She bribed guards to look the other way. She memorized patrol schedules and escape routes. She also found the other humans. There were 11 of them, just as had said, scattered across the indifferent cells. Some were fighters-like. Others were workers who cleaned the arena or served food to wealthy guests. All of them were waiting for a chance at freedom. One of them was a woman named, she had been a military engineer before her capture. For months, she had been secretly breaking equipment throughout the arena. Lights, locks, communication systems, small damage that no one noticed. She was preparing for something big. When gives the signal, told, everything will be ready. The signal would come during the Grand Championship. It was the biggest event of the year. Thousands of spectators would fill the arena. Every major slaver and criminal in the sector would attend. Security would be focused on protecting the guests, not watching the slaves. It was the perfect time for a rebellion. But 2 days before the championship, everything became more complicated. Was in her private viewing room when the door opened behind her. She turned, expecting to see. Instead, she saw her brother. Prince stood in the doorway, his silver face twisted in a cold smile. He was older than by 10 years. He had always been cruel, even as a child. Now, as the heir to the empire, his cruelty had power behind it. "Sister," he said, walking into the room, "I have been looking for you." Kept her face calm. "How did you find me?" "You are not as clever as you think. Father noticed you were missing. He sent me to bring you home." Looked around the room with interest. "But now that I am here, I see why you stayed. The illegal slave fighting. Father would be shocked." Would he? Asked coldly. "His ships supply this station." Laughed. "Yes, but that is business. This is entertainment." He sat down in one of the chairs. "I think I will stay for the championship. I hear they have a human fighter who is quite impressive." His heart sank. If stayed, everything would become more dangerous. The night of the Grand Championship arrived. The arena was packed with more creatures than had ever seen. They filled every seat, every balcony, every standing area. The air was thick with noise and heat, and the smell of bodies pressed together. Sat in the royal viewing box with beside her. Below them the first fights had already begun. Blood splashed on the sand. The crowd roared. She tried to focus, but her mind kept wandering to the plan. The signals, the timing, everything had to be perfect. Finally, the announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "And now, the final match of the championship. The human warrior will face not one, not two, but 3 opponents." The crowd went insane. 3 gates opened around the arena. 3 massive creatures emerged. One was like the one had killed before. The second was a serpent-like alien with venomous fangs. The third was a 4-legged predator covered in spikes. Then walked out. He was still barehanded, still calm. His dark eyes scanned the arena slowly, taking in every detail. For one moment his gaze rose to the royal box. He looked directly at. She gave him the smallest nod. Turned back to face his opponents. The crowd counted down, 3, 2, 1. The fight began. The 3 monsters charged at once. And then the lights went out. Complete darkness fell over the arena. The crowd screamed in confusion. Heard bodies crashing into each other, people falling from their seats. Had done her work well. Emergency lights flickered on, dim and red, and in that bloody glow saw chaos. The human slaves had broken free. Weapons that had smuggled appeared in their hands. Cell doors hung open. Guards lay on the ground, unconscious or dead. 12 humans against 200 guards. The guards had better weapons, better armor, better numbers. It did not matter. Watched as the humans fought like nothing she had ever seen. They moved together like a single creature. They covered each other. They used the chaos and darkness to their advantage. They did not fight fair. They fought to win. Was at the center of it all. He had taken a blade from a fallen guard and moved through enemies like wind through grass. Each strike was perfect. Each movement saved energy. He was not just fighting. He was leading. Beside jumped to his feet. "What is happening? Guards, guards." But the guards in the royal box were already down. Stood in the doorway, a weapon in her hand. "Sorry, Prince," she said. "Your guards are sleeping." Tried to run. He made it 3 steps before appeared in front of him. The human was covered in blood, but none of it was his own. "Your sister bought us time," said quietly. "She risked everything to help us. You tried to buy us for entertainment. There is a difference." Fell to his knees. "Please, I am royalty. I can pay you. I can give you anything." Looked down at him with those patient, empty eyes. "Can you give me back the years I spent in chains? Can you bring back the friends I watched die? Can you give me my freedom?" Could not answer. Turned away from him. "Tie him up, he comes with us. A hostage might be useful." Stepped forward. "The escape route is clear. Disabled the security on the docking bay." Looked at her. For the first time since she had met him, something softened in his expression. "You really did it," he said. "You helped us." Smiled though her hands were shaking. "I told you I would." Around them the other humans gathered. 11 survivors, bloody and tired but alive, free for the first time in years. "Then let us go," said, "before they send reinforcements." As they ran through the burning corridors of the felt something she had never felt before. Purpose, belonging, a reason to exist beyond her title and bloodline. She did not know what would happen next, but for the first time in her life, she was choosing her own path. And she was not alone. The stolen ship drifted through empty space, far from the burning ruins of the sat in the cargo hold, surrounded by the 11 humans she had helped to free. They were resting now, eating real food for the first time in months, treating their wounds, sleeping without fear. The young teacher had finally stopped shaking. He sat next to, listening as she explained how she had sabotaged the arena's systems. His eyes were still haunted, but there was hope in them now. In the corner, Prince sat bound and gagged. He glared at everyone with hatred, but no one paid attention to him. He was cargo now, nothing more. Stood at the viewport, staring out at the stars. He had cleaned the blood from his body, but could still see the exhaustion in his shoulders. 2 years of fighting, 2 years of waiting. It had finally ended. She walked over to stand beside him. "What happens now?" she asked. Did not answer immediately. He watched a distant nebula, purple and gold against the blackness of space. "We find a safe place," he finally said. "Somewhere to rest, to heal. Then we start looking for others." Others? There are more humans out there, slaves on other stations, prisoners in other arenas. The galaxy scattered us across 100 worlds. His jaw tightened. "We will find them, all of them." Thought about what that meant. More missions, more danger, more fighting against an entire galaxy that saw humans as property. "That could take years," she said. "Decades." "Then it takes decades." Finally turned to look at her. "Why did you help us? You had everything, wealth, power, safety. You threw it all away for slaves you did not even know." Considered the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times over the past weeks. "When I watched you fight in the arena," she said slowly, "I saw something I had never seen before. You had nothing. No weapons, no armor, no hope of victory, but you fought like you owned the universe, like nothing could break you." She looked down at her hands, the hands of a princess, soft, useless. "I had a title, a bloodline, a future chosen for me by people who never asked what I wanted. Watching you, I realized I had never chosen anything in my life. I was just existing, following the path that others made." She met his eyes. "I wanted to know what it felt like, to fight for something, to choose my own way even if it destroyed everything." Studied her face for a long moment. Then slowly something changed in his expression. The coldness faded. For just a second he looked almost human. "You did not just help us escape," he said. "You earned your place. Whatever you were before, you are one of us now." Behind them spoke up. "We should decide what to do with the prince. He is worth a fortune in ransom. His father would pay anything to get him back." Several humans nodded in agreement, but raised his hand. "If we ransom him, we become what they think we are, criminals, monsters." He looked around at his fellow humans. "We are not slaves anymore. We should not act like slavers. A debate broke out. Some wanted to sell for desperately needed credits. Others wanted to release him as a sign of good faith. A few wanted to kill him for the things his family had done. Listened to all of them without speaking. Finally, he raised his hand, and everyone fell silent. We will keep him for now, decided. Not as ransom, not as revenge, as insurance. When we are strong enough, we will return him unharmed. Let the Empire know that humans keep their word, even when our enemies do not deserve mercy. The debate ended. Even those who disagreed accepted the decision, had earned their trust with blood and sacrifice. A beeping sound came from the cockpit. Went to check it and returned with a strange expression on her face. "We are picking up a distress signal," she said. "It is coming from a transport ship about 2 hours away." "What kind of transport?" asked. Swallowed hard. "A slave transport, and the signal. It is in Korean, the old Earth language. There are humans on that ship." Silence fell over the cargo hold. Everyone looked at. He closed his eyes for a moment. He had just escaped from hell. He was exhausted, wounded, running low on supplies. The smart thing to do was to ignore the signal, find safety, rest. But knew what he would decide before he opened his mouth. Set a course, said, "We are going to help them." Nodded and returned to the cockpit. Around the cargo hold, the other humans began preparing weapons and checking equipment. No one complained. No one hesitated. Turned back to the viewport. Stood beside him, watching the stars shift as the ship changed direction. "You could have run," she said. "You could have found safety. Why do you keep fighting?" Was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that would remember for the rest of her life. "Because we are human, we do not abandon our own. We do not surrender. We do not break." He looked at her with those dark, patient eyes. "They built chains to hold us. They will learn that chains make us stronger." Felt tears forming in her eyes, not from sadness, from something else, something she had never felt before. "Back in the arena," she said softly, "when you were fighting barehanded against that monster, I whispered something to myself. I said I wished you belonged to me." Raised an eyebrow. Laughed, wiping her eyes. "I was so stupid. I did not understand anything. You cannot belong to anyone. None of us can. That is what makes us free." Was silent for a long moment. Then, for the first time since she had met him, he smiled. It was small, barely visible, but it was real. "You finally understand," he said. So asked, "What do I belong to now?" Looked around at the cargo hold, at the wounded humans preparing to fight again, at the stolen ship flying toward danger, at the stars burning in the endless darkness. "You belong to this," he said. "Whatever this becomes, a rebellion, a family, a new beginning, we will build it together." Smiled back at him. The ship flew on toward the distress signal. Behind them, the burned. Ahead of them, an entire galaxy waited. They had been slaves, they had been broken, they had been alone. Now they were free. And they were just getting started.